I've got an M1 Pro MacBook Pro, base model, 16 gigs of RAM, which I figured was plenty. So I read a tutorial about Firecrawl, the open source tool that turns messy web pages into clean, LLM-ready markdown, and I ran Docker Compose up without a second thought. Then I opened Activity Monitor. 14 plus gigs of RAM, 3 gigs spilling into swap, memory pressure glowing yellow, the macOS version of a check engine light. Because Firecrawl's stack isn't one container, it's 5 services at once: the API server, a Playwright browser cluster, Redis, RabbitMQ, and Postgres. That landed on top of VS Code, Chrome, and a dev server I already had running. Firecrawl can grab up to 12 gigs on its own, and that's the part most tutorials skip. Here's the move. GitHub Codespaces gives you a 16 gig 4-core cloud machine for free. The free tier is 30 hours a month, which for development and on-demand scraping is plenty. So instead of fighting my laptop for RAM, Firecrawl runs up there, and I've packaged the whole thing into a template repo you can fork. It's called Firecrawl Codespaces. 5 minutes from zero to a working Firecrawl instance, wired straight into Claude Code on your local machine. No API keys, no credit card. Let me show you exactly how. The prerequisites are almost nothing. You need a GitHub account, free tier is fine, and the GitHub CLI, GGH, installed locally. That's it. No Docker desktop, no homebrew, no node. The entire stack runs inside the Codespace. The only thing your laptop needs is GH, for one tunnel command at the end. Head straight to github.com/codespaces/new. Pick the Firecrawl Codespaces repo from the dropdown, leave the branch on main, and the dev container config loads itself. One thing actually matters here, the machine type. Pick the 4-core 16 gig option. The 2-core only has 8 gigs of RAM, and Firecrawl will run out of memory on it, so 4-core, then hit create. The moment the Codespace boots, it runs a setup script automatically, and because it's wired into the dev container as a post-start command, it runs every time the Codespace starts, not just the first. Here's what it's doing. It clones Firecrawl, writes a minimal .env on port 3663 with no auth and no API keys, swaps in pre-built Docker images so it doesn't compile from source, brings the stack up, and waits for the health check. First run is a couple of minutes while it pulls images. After that, resuming takes about 30 seconds, and when it's done, the ports tab lights up green on 36663. Run Docker ps and there they are, all 5 containers healthy. The API, Playwright Redis, RabbitMQ, Postgres. Firecrawl is live inside your Codespace. Now we just need to reach it from your machine. Now switch to your local terminal, not the Codespace, your actual machine. Run gh codespace list to grab the name and then one command does everything. gh codespace ports forward 36663 to 36663. That's it. Firecrawl is now at localhost 36663 on your laptop, exactly as if it were running locally. No public URL, no auth tokens, nothing exposed to the internet. Open it in the browser and you get the Firecrawl API responding. And here's the bonus. That tunnel keeps the Codespace awake as long as it's running. Hold that thought. Firecrawl's running. Now let's make Claude Code actually use it. 3 quick steps. First, install the Firecrawl CLI globally with npm. Then run Firecrawl setup skills with agent Claude Code. That pulls the Firecrawl skills straight from the official CLI repo, 1 per capability. Scrape a page, search the web, crawl a site, map URLs, interact with a live page. It runs a quick security check on each. You approve, and they get copied into Claude Code's skills folder. Now Claude knows the moves. Third step, and this is the one that actually makes it work. Add a Firecrawl block to your project's CLAUDE.md. Here's why it matters. Out of the box, the Firecrawl skill assumes you're using Firecrawl's cloud service, so it goes looking for an API key. But ours isn't in the cloud. It's the self-hosted instance running on localhost. So without this block, the skill reaches for the cloud, hits an auth wall, and just fails, even though your own Firecrawl is sitting right there, running fine. The big line, always prefix the command with Firecrawl API URL pointing at localhost 3663. That's what says, talk to my local instance, not the cloud. There are a couple more gotchas, like never running Firecrawl status, and I've put the full block copy-paste ready in the description below. Okay, theory's nice. Let's watch it work. I asked Claude Code to read a Fluent Cart REST API docs page and tell me how to bulk insert products. Exactly the kind of thing you'd do before writing an integration. Claude reaches for the Firecrawl scrape skill. First it checks that Firecrawl's actually up on localhost 3663, then it runs the scrape with that Firecrawl API URL prefix we set. And what comes back is clean, structured markdown. The endpoint, a full parameter table with types and descriptions, and a ready-to-use curl example. No HTML soup, just the part you actually need. And it doesn't just hand you the answer and forget it. It saves the scraped page as a markdown file in a .firecrawl folder, so it's there for next time. Quick word on the free tier so it doesn't surprise you. GitHub gives you 120 core hours a month, and because a 4-core machine burns them 4 at a time, that's about 30 actual hours. Call it hundreds of doc pages. And here's the thing. Codespaces auto-stops when it's idle, which sounds like a downside but is actually the model. You spin it up when you need it, and stop it when you don't. Stop it right from the command palette. Next time, you restart it from github.com under Codespaces. The setup script reruns on its own, and you just rerun the tunnel. Stopped storage costs pennies a month. So that yellow memory warning on my MacBook? Gone from the equation. Firecrawl runs on a 16 gig cloud machine that costs nothing, and my laptop goes back to doing laptop things. But the real takeaway is bigger than Firecrawl. The pattern is this. Instead of installing heavy tools on every machine you own, run them once in the cloud and tunnel to them from wherever you are. GitHub built that tunneling right into the CLI, and your AI coding assistant now has live web access for anything it needs to read before it writes code. If you want to try it, the repo's linked below. Firecrawl Codespaces. Fork it, spin up a 4-core codespace, run the tunnel, drop the block into your CLAUDE.md. 5 minutes, 0 API keys. Go build something with it.